Adrian Blackwood did not react the way ordinary men react to danger. He did not turn sharply. He did not reach for anyone. He did not even look behind him. He simply rested 2 fingers on the stem of his wineglass and gave the smallest nod I had ever seen. One of the men beside him stood, not fast enough to draw notice, only smooth enough to disappear into the rhythm of the restaurant. If I had blinked, I might have missed it. But suddenly I saw things I had not seen before. The waiter near the entrance was not a waiter. The older man reading a newspaper by the window had not turned a page in 10 minutes. 2 women in evening gowns near the piano had the posture of people listening for orders. The whole room shifted without appearing to move at all. And I realized I had not warned one dangerous man. I had stepped into the machinery surrounding him. My throat tightened. I should leave. That thought beat in my head like a drum. Leave now. But my body would not obey. The man near the bar began walking, his expression calm, almost bored, and for one terrifying second I thought maybe I had imagined everything. Then Adrian lifted his eyes to me again and placed his glass down. The sound against the table was almost delicate, yet it carried through me like thunder. A server passed my table and whispered, so softly I thought I imagined it, "Do not stand up." My blood ran cold. The server kept moving as if nothing had happened. I sat frozen, fingers gripping the edge of the tablecloth. Somewhere behind me silverware chimed. A chair scraped. The violin continued. And somehow that made it worse. That ordinary beauty carried on while something invisible unfolded beneath it. The man from the bar reached Adrian's table. He leaned in as if offering a quiet greeting. Adrian did not rise, did not smile. He merely looked up with the kind of stillness that made everyone around him seem made of paper. Then the man stopped mid-step. I could not hear what Adrian said. I only saw the stranger's face change. Confidence drained into something unreadable. A second later, 2 suited men appeared at his side as naturally as shadows.
No struggle.
No scene. Just a subtle redirection toward a side hallway marked private. If you had been sipping champagne 3 tables over, you might have thought they were old friends stepping away to talk business. But I knew better. My pulse thundered in my ears. I had helped trigger something I did not understand. I reached for my purse, desperate now to leave before anyone remembered I existed. But a hand touched the back of my chair. I flinched so hard I nearly knocked over my water. The same server leaned close enough for only me to hear. "He would like you to stay." My voice came out thin. "Who?" But I already knew. The server's expression did not change. "Mr. Blackwood." My stomach dropped. I almost laughed from nerves because of course he would have a name like that. Blackwood sounded less like a person than a warning. I shook my head. "Tell him I need to go." The server's eyes softened with something close to pity. "Miss, I would not advise leaving right now." Before I could answer, the room shifted once more. Adrian stood. He was taller than I realized, broad-shouldered, composed, every movement carrying the quiet gravity of command. Conversations continued around him, but somehow all sound felt farther away. He crossed the restaurant toward me, not rushed, not hesitant, like a man walking toward something inevitable. I should have looked down. Instead I stared, trapped by those winter-gray eyes. He stopped beside my table, glanced at the untouched pasta, then at me. "You saw what others missed," he said, his voice low and calm, carrying the faintest rough edge of old-world steel. I opened my mouth, but nothing came. He studied me for one impossible moment, then added, almost softly, the question now, "Emily Carter, is why they let you see it." Hearing my full name in a stranger's mouth turned the floor beneath me to ice. I had not told him my name, and in that instant I understood the warning had not ended the danger. It had only introduced me to it. The sound of my name in Adrian Blackwood's voice hollowed out the room around me. "Emily Carter." He said it as if he had known it long before I sat trembling over untouched pasta, pretending not to fall apart. My mouth went dry. "How do you know my name?" was all I managed, but came out more like a breath than a question. One corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile. "Reservation list," he said, though something in his eyes suggested the answer was not the whole truth. Then he glanced toward the private hallway where the stranger had disappeared and looked back at me with a gravity that made my pulse stumble. "You need to leave with me." Every instinct screamed no. Every warning my mother ever gave about powerful men flashed through my mind. I pushed back my chair. "I am not going anywhere with you." His gaze lowered briefly to my shaking hands. "You already did when you sent that signal." Before I could answer, a woman in pearls passed our table and dropped a folded napkin beside my water glass without breaking stride. Adrian's expression changed the instant he saw it. He opened the napkin once. "Read 2 words. Burn after." He folded it again and slipped it into his jacket. For the first time, I saw something colder move beneath his calm. He extended a hand, not touching me, offering, "Emily, trust me for 60 seconds. There was no reason I should have. Yet the way he said my name held no command, only urgency wrapped in control. I stood because my legs seemed to move on their own. The entire restaurant blurred around me as he guided me toward a side corridor lined with framed black and white photographs of old Manhattan. My heels clicked too loudly on marble. I hated that he did not rush. Hated more that his steadiness was becoming contagious. We entered a private lounge lit by amber lamps and leather chairs. No music here, just silence and rain against glass. Adrian closed the door. I stepped back at once. What is happening? He studied me like he was deciding how much truth I could survive. You thought you warned me about an attack. You did not. I stared. What does that mean? He moved toward the window overlooking the city, hands in his pockets. The man you noticed was not after me. He was being watched because someone in this building planned to expose a witness tonight. Your signal interrupted a betrayal. A witness. The word sounded unreal, like something from crime shows my roommates binged. I laughed once, nervous and sharp. I am a college student who works weekends at a bakery. You have the wrong girl for whatever this is. Adrian turned. No, Emily. That is exactly why they may choose you. I shook my head. This is insane. I was leaving. I reached for the door, but his voice stopped me. Your apartment is not safe tonight. I froze. Something icy slid down my spine. How do you know where I live? His silence answered too much. I backed away. You had me followed. Protection, he said. Observation. The distinction matters. It should have made me furious. Somehow it only made me more afraid. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and every trace of warmth vanished. He lifted his eyes slowly to me. There is something you need to understand. I did not invite you in here to protect me. I brought you in because someone just asked why the girl in blue was still alive. My knees nearly gave out. He crossed the room before I stumbled and caught my elbow, steadying me with surprising gentleness. His hand released the second I found balance. Even that restraint unsettled me. Why would anyone care about me? I whispered. Adrian looked almost pained. Because you used a signal no civilian should know. My breath caught. The 2 fingers to the glass. My father taught me that. Adrian went still. Who was your father? Daniel Carter, I said. The name left my lips and changed his face. Not shock. Recognition. Deep and old. He looked at me as if a locked door had just opened somewhere inside him. Then he said so quietly I almost missed it, your father was not supposed to have a daughter. Before I could process those words, the lights flickered once. A soft click sounded at the door. Adrian turned toward it. Every line of him sharpened. Then he said the words that made my world tilt for the second time that night. Emily, when I tell you to hide behind me, do not argue. The soft click at the door sounded louder than thunder. I did not argue. Something in Adrian's voice made obedience feel less like surrender and more like survival. I stepped behind him, my pulse hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. He did not reach for a weapon, did not lunge toward danger. He only straightened, one hand slipping casually into his pocket as if he were preparing to greet a business associate instead of whatever waited beyond that door. Then the handle turned. The door opened 3 inches. A man in a white dinner jacket leaned inside, silver-haired, elegant, old money in human form. He smiled when he saw Adrian. Too calm, too polished. Forgive the interruption, Adrian. We have a problem downstairs. Adrian did not move. We all do, Vincent. The older man's gaze shifted to me. It lingered one beat too long. So this is the girl. My stomach tightened. Girl. As if he had known I was here. Adrian stepped subtly, blocking part of me from view. She is leaving. Vincent gave a small, amused breath. That may no longer be possible. The room turned colder. No one raised a voice. No one threatened anyone. Yet something terrible moved beneath every word. Adrian said, "You were supposed to protect the witness." Vincent's smile thinned. I protected what mattered. Then he looked directly at me. "Miss Carter, did your father ever tell you silence can save a life?" My blood froze. How did this stranger know my father too? Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Enough." Vincent inclined his head. "The service elevator in 90 seconds. Come alone if you want answers." He closed the door as quietly as he had opened it. Silence crashed over the room. I stared at Adrian. My father knew him too. Adrian exhaled slowly through his nose. Worse, he trusted him. I shook my head. "I do not understand any of this." "Neither do I anymore," he said. That terrified me more than anything. A man like Adrian Blackwood was not supposed to sound uncertain. He crossed to a hidden panel near the bar and pressed something beneath the wood. A narrow side door released with a click. "We are leaving." I stood frozen. "You said the man in the restaurant was not after you. You said I interrupted a betrayal." Adrian looked at me hard. "Emily, listen carefully. The target tonight was never me. It was a young woman working in the kitchen who agreed to testify against men who move money through the city. My warning had not saved Adrian at all. It had exposed a trap. Then why am I involved?" He hesitated, and I knew. Whatever came next mattered. "Because you recognized danger before trained men did. Because you used an old signal tied to a dead network. And because someone in that room knew your father's name before I said it." The world tilted again. "My father died when I was 12. Adrian held my gaze. "Are you certain?" The question landed like ice water. Before I could answer, distant laughter drifted in from the ballroom, absurdly normal. My old life felt 1,000 miles away. Adrian opened the hidden door. Beyond it, a narrow corridor disappeared into darkness and service lights. I should have run from him then. Instead I followed. The passage smelled faintly of dust and old brick. Our footsteps echoed. Halfway down the corridor Adrian slowed. "Why did you signal me, Emily?" I almost laughed. "Because I thought someone was going to hurt you." He looked over his shoulder, and something unreadable passed through his eyes. "No one says that to me." We reached a freight elevator. Its metal doors looked older than the building. Adrian pressed the call button. The machinery groaned awake somewhere below. Then his phone vibrated again. He read the screen and went completely still. "What is it?" I whispered. He turned the phone toward me. One message. Unknown sender. It read, "Ask her about the locket she has worn since childhood." My breath stopped. My fingers flew instinctively to the silver locket beneath my dress, the one I had touched when nervous my entire life. I looked up in disbelief. I never told him about the locket. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. "Emily, what is inside it?" I stared at him. "I have never been able to open it." The elevator doors slid apart with a metallic sigh. Adrian did not move. He was staring at the locket as though he had seen a ghost. Then he said the words that shattered everything I thought I knew. "Your father did not leave you an heirloom. He left you evidence." Evidence. The word followed me into the freight elevator like a second heartbeat. The doors shut with a hollow metallic thud, sealing out the restaurant, the music. The old version of me who had walked in thinking heartbreak was the worst thing a night could hold. I stared at Adrian as the elevator descended, slow and humming, every floor dropping like a secret. "You are telling me the necklace my father gave me when I was 6 is evidence." My voice sounded thin even to me. Adrian did not answer right away. He was watching the floor numbers above the door as though each one carried a memory he wished stayed buried. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Daniel Carter did not keep sentimental things. Men in his line of work did not survive by trusting jewelry. My chest tightened. My father was a police officer. Adrian looked at me then, almost gently. That is what you were told. The elevator opened into an underground garage washed in fluorescent light. Black sedans waited in perfect silence. Rain echoed somewhere beyond concrete. Adrian guided me toward a car, but my feet stopped moving. No, you keep talking in riddles and I am done following you without answers. For a moment I thought he might order me inside. Instead he surprised me. He leaned one arm on the car roof and looked at me with an exhaustion I had not seen before. Fair. As the openness in that single word disarmed me. Was my father working for you? Adrian gave a dry breath. No. Worse. Sometimes he worked against me. I stared. Then why do you act like you owe him? Because I do. He opened the rear door but did not rush me. Your father once saved my life. I remembered the photograph in the corridor of Old Manhattan. The recognition in Adrian's face when I spoke my father's name. None of that had been performance. My voice shook. Then why hide this from me? Because if Daniel succeeded, you were never supposed to know. A cold draft swept through the garage. Schumer tires rolled over wet pavement. Everything ordinary sounded haunted. I slid into the car because standing there felt impossible. Adrian entered beside me, not too close, leaving space as if he understood I was balancing on the edge of belief. The car pulled out smoothly. Through tinted glass, the city streaked in silver and gold. I touched the locket at my throat. I had worn it every day since childhood. Slept in it. Cried into it. Never once questioned why it never opened. What kind of evidence? Adrian studied me before, answering. Something people have spent years searching for. I laughed in disbelief. You are saying criminals are chasing a 20-year-old bakery girl because of a necklace she cannot even open. Adrian's mouth almost curved. You stopped being ordinary the moment you made that signal. I should have hated how easily he unsettled me. Instead I heard myself ask, can you open it? Maybe. His answer came too quickly, like he had thought about this before tonight. The car turned through wrought iron gates into a penthouse tower overlooking the river. Security opened doors before we reached them. Elevators rose in silence. Everything about Adrian's world felt engineered to keep chaos outside. Yet I had never felt less safe. His penthouse was all glass, dark wood, and city lights floating below like fallen stars. He led me to a study lined with books. Not trophies. Books. Somehow that shocked me. He opened a drawer and removed a velvet cloth and a small antique key. My pulse jumped. Where did you get that? Adrian looked at the key a long moment. Your father gave it to me 11 years ago. My breath left me. He held out his hand. May I? I should have refused. Instead my fingers shook as I unclasped the chain and placed the locket in his palm. His thumb brushed the worn silver as though recognizing an old wound. He inserted the tiny key. Turned once. A soft click. My entire life narrowed to that sound. The locket opened. Inside was not a photograph. Not a saint. A microfilm strip no larger than a fingernail and folded beneath it a piece of paper yellowed with age. Adrian unfolded it carefully. His eyes scanned the writing and all color drained from his face. What is it? I whispered. He handed me the note. In my father's handwriting were 7 words. If Adrian trusts you, tell him I lived. I looked up, unable to breathe. My father was dead. Had to be dead. Adrian was already backing toward the window, stunned in a way that made him look suddenly human. Then he said, almost to himself, Daniel Carter was not killed. He disappeared. Before I could speak, a phone on his desk began ringing. He glanced at the screen and went still. Caller ID, Daniel Carter. The phone rang once, twice, each tone cutting through the study like a blade through silk. No one moved. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and uneven, while the city glittered beyond Adrian's windows as if none of this was happening. Daniel Carter. My father's name burned on the screen. Dead men did not call. My knees felt weak. Adrian looked at me, not as a mafia boss, not as the untouchable man from the restaurant, but as someone standing on the edge of an old ghost. Answer it, I whispered. His hand hovered over the phone for a fraction of a second before he pressed accept. He did not put it on speaker. He simply lifted it to his ear and listened. Silence. Then his face changed. Not fear. Something older. Something wounded. Adrian Blackwood, a man I had met only hours ago and still barely understood, whispered one word I never expected to hear from him. Daniel. My heart slammed so hard I grabbed the desk. A voice answered, low and weathered, impossible to make out except for fragments through the speaker. I heard my name. Emily. I nearly stopped breathing. Adrian's gray eyes found mine. He did not look surprised anymore. He looked confirmed. He listened another moment and said, she is here. Safe. A pause. Then whatever the voice said made Adrian straighten. No, that is not possible. I stepped closer. Let me talk to him. Adrian lifted one finger, asking me to wait, but emotion was already cracking through me. For 12 years I had talked to a gravestone. For 12 years birthdays came and went with no father to call. And now a voice from nowhere was speaking through a stranger's phone. Adrian finally held it out. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. Hello. Silence. Then a breath. Emily Bear. My father used to call me that when I was little. My knees gave out and I sank into the chair. Tears came before I even realized I was crying. Dad. His voice was older, rougher, but real. I do not have much time. Listen carefully. Every part of me wanted to scream questions. Where are you? Why did you leave? Why let me believe you were gone? But the urgency in his voice held me still. The people around Adrian are not all who they seem. Trust him. Not Vincent. Especially not Vincent. I looked up at Adrian, stunned. He had gone motionless. My father continued. The film inside the locket is not the real key. It only points to where the ledger is hidden. Ledger. The word sounded dangerous even spoken softly. I do not understand. I whispered. You will. And Emily. There is something I never told you. The line crackled. My chest hurt from holding breath. Adrian moved closer, listening too. Your mother did not die in the car accident. My mind emptied. What? A burst of static swallowed part of his words. Then clearer. She was taken into protection. She had to disappear to keep you alive. The room tilted. My mother. Alive too. It was too much. Too impossible. Why tell me now? Because someone moved tonight. Someone who was supposed to stay buried. Adrian reached for a pen and scribbled something while listening, his instincts moving faster than thought. I realized then this was not shocking him the way it shocked me. It was awakening old war. My father's voice lowered. Emily, there is a man near Adrian you must never trust. He wears loyalty like a suit. Before I could ask who, the penthouse lights dimmed once. Adrian's head snapped toward the hallway. His security earpiece crackled on the desk. A voice whispered urgent code I did not understand. Adrian mouthed one word. Breach. My father heard it too. Daniel's voice hardened. They found you. Leave now. Adrian took the phone from me and said into it, where do I bring her? But only static answered. Then the line died. Silence crashed down. I stared at the dead phone, tears on my face, unable to process that I had spoken to a dead man who was not dead. Adrian was already moving. He opened a concealed wall safe, removed a leather folder, the microfilm, and pressed them into a satchel. Emily's shoes. Now, I stood on trembling legs. What is happening? Adrian looked at me with a strange fierceness I had not seen before. Your father just made you the most hunted woman in this city. Then a soft knock came at the study door. 3 knocks. Polite. Controlled. Adrian went still. Very quietly he said, no one knocks in my house. A familiar voice came through the wood. Adrian, it is Madison. Emily's friend. From college. I froze in disbelief. Madison should not have known where I was. Adrian looked at me and whispered words that turned my blood to ice. Emily, do not open that door. Your friend did not come alone. 3 polite knocks should not sound terrifying, but those did. They landed with the calm certainty of people who already believed the door belonged to them. Madison's voice came again, softer now. Emily, open up. It is me. My pulse stumbled. Madison Hale had been my roommate, my late-night coffee partner, the person who knew every cheap dream I ever whispered out loud. Hearing her outside Adrian Blackwood's private study at 2 in the morning should have been impossible. Adrian's hand caught my wrist before I moved. His touch was brief, controlled, but electric with warning. "Look at me," he whispered. I did. Those winter-gray eyes were colder than I had ever seen them. "If she says your nickname from college, do not answer." The words made no sense until Madison called through the door again. "Emmy, come on. It is Maddie." That was wrong. She never called me Emmy. Only my father had. My breath hitched. Adrian saw recognition break across my face and nodded once. "Good girl," he said so quietly it almost disappeared. Then he moved. Fast, silent, not like a man reacting in fear but one executing a plan drawn years ago. He opened a concealed panel beside the bookcase. A narrow passage yawned behind it. "We leave through here." "What about Madison?" I whispered. Adrian looked at me with something like pity. "The Madison you know would have texted first." A pounding started farther down the penthouse, muted but unmistakable. Not chaos. Pressure. Doors opening where they should not. Security voices crackled faintly beyond walls. Adrian pushed the satchel into my hands. "Hold this. Do not let go." I clutched it like oxygen. Another knock. Then Madison's voice broke. "Emily, please. They have my brother." I froze. Real panic this time. That was Madison. I knew that tremor. Adrian cursed under his breath. The first crack I had heard in his composure. Of course they would use truth inside the lie. He opened the study door 2 inches, enough to speak without exposing the room. Madison stood in the hall pale, mascara streaked, terrified. 2 men in suits lingered several feet behind her pretending not to watch. Adrian took in everything in one glance. Madison saw me and burst into tears. "Emily, I am sorry. I did not know who they were." My chest twisted. She looked genuinely shattered. Adrian stepped into the doorway, becoming a wall between us and the hall. "Go to the service stairs," he told me without turning. I did not move. I could not leave her. Adrian's voice sharpened. "Emily, now." But Madison suddenly blurted, "Vincent sent them." The name hit like ice. Adrian stilled. Vincent, the elegant silver-haired ally. Betrayal had a face now. Madison reached into her coat and every instinct in me screamed. Adrian shifted in front of me instantly, but Madison only pulled out a folded map, shaking. "Your father hid something in Pennsylvania Station Locker 19. They made me bring this." My mind reeled. Another layer. Another secret. Adrian took the paper without lowering his guard. Then something impossible happened. Madison looked at him and whispered. "Daniel said if Adrian still wears the scar on his left shoulder, trust him." Adrian actually staggered half a step as if struck by memory. "How does she know that?" he murmured. The hallway lights flickered. One of the suited men behind Madison touched an earpiece. Adrian's whole body tightened. "Trap." He grabbed Madison's arm, pulled her inside, slammed the study door and sealed the lock. The first impact hit the outer hall door a second later. Not violent enough to describe, just enough to announce time was over. Adrian turned to both of us. "Change of plan. We go together." Madison looked at me through tears. "I did not betray you willingly." I wanted to believe her. Maybe I did. The hidden passage swallowed us into darkness lit only by maintenance bulbs. We moved single file through walls inside walls while the city glowed far beyond the building's skin. My breathing echoed. Madison whispered behind me, "Emily, there is more. Your mother." Adrian stopped so suddenly we nearly collided. At the end of the passage stood a steel door I assumed led to escape. He opened it. Cold night air rushed in from a rooftop helipad. Rain misted silver. A helicopter waited with rotors still. But Adrian did not move toward it. He stared at the pilot. My blood ran cold because I recognized him from the restaurant. The silver-haired man. Vincent. He smiled into the rain. "You always did choose the dramatic exit, Adrian." Adrian stepped in front of us both and said in a voice gone utterly still, "Emily." This is where you learn the man who saves you may also be the man your father feared most. Rain blew across the rooftop in silver threads, stinging my face as the helicopter blades ticked in the wind. Vincent stood by the open cabin door like a man welcoming guests to dinner instead of intercepting fugitives in the middle of the night. His white dinner jacket looked untouched by weather, untouched by guilt. Adrian did not move. Neither did I. His words still echoed inside me. The man who saves you may also be the man your father feared most. I looked at Adrian, searching his face for deception and finding only something rawer. Regret. Vincent smiled faintly. You told her already. That is unlike you. Adrian's voice was ice. You used my house. You used her friend. Vincent spread his hands. I used necessity. Emily, he said, turning to me with almost grandfatherly calm. Your father trusted the wrong men. Adrian included. My pulse kicked hard. Madison grabbed my sleeve behind me, shaking. Do not listen to him. But Vincent continued as if we were alone. Ask Adrian who built the network your father tried to destroy. Ask him why Daniel disappeared the week Adrian took control of the city ports. The rain seemed louder. I looked at Adrian. Say something. For the first time since I met him, Adrian hesitated. That silence hurt more than accusation. Then he said quietly, I built terrible things before I learned what they cost. Vincent laughed softly. Hear that? A confession wrapped as philosophy. Adrian stepped slightly in front of me again, instinctive as breathing. That small gesture told me more than words. Protectors do not hide behind those they plan to betray. Vincent saw me notice. His eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. Then he shifted tactics. Emily, did Adrian tell you your father once aimed a gun at him? The words landed like a crack in glass. Adrian answered before I could, and lowered it, because your father chose a harder war. Vincent tilted his head. Romantic revision. Daniel chose survival. He chose me. That made Adrian move. Not aggressively, simply one step closer, enough authority in it to change the air. Do not lie about the dead. Vincent's smile vanished. Daniel is not dead. You of all people know that. My heart lurched. Every truth tonight arrived carrying another blade. Then Vincent reached into his coat. I tensed, but he withdrew only a weathered photograph sealed in plastic against rain. He held it out toward me. Your mother. Against every instinct I took it. Under the helipad lights I saw a woman with my eyes standing beside a younger Adrian and my father. All three smiling. My knees nearly gave out. Adrian watched me, pain written openly now. I was going to tell you. When? Tomorrow. If we lived to morning. Somehow that answer, absurdly honest, steadied me. Madison whispered behind me, Emily, look at the back. I turned the photograph over. A handwritten date. 11 months after my mother supposedly died. My whole life had been built on edited truths. Vincent stepped closer, voice velvet smooth. Come with me and I take you to your father. Adrian's jaw tightened. Vincent lifted a brow. Then why did Daniel send her to me through the locket trail? Adrian froze. I felt it. A hidden fracture. You did not know that part, Vincent said softly. For the first time, the silver-haired strategist looked genuinely dangerous because he looked pleased. He had landed a wound. I should have panicked. Instead, something my father once said rose in me. Fear makes noise. Survival whispers. I looked at Adrian. Did you know about Pennsylvania Station? No. Honest again. Vincent extended his hand. Come, Emily. Your father is waiting. The helicopter lights spun across wet concrete. For one impossible moment, the future split in two. Trust the elegant ghost from my father's past or the dangerous man who had stepped in front of me every time death knocked. Then I noticed something small. Vincent wore cufflinks engraved with the same symbol from the warning note burn after. The symbol of the betrayal. My blood turned cold. He had shown me the answer without realizing. I stepped back from Vincent. You sent the message in the restaurant. You wanted me to lead you to the locket. Vincent's smile faded. Adrian saw understanding dawn in me and something fierce lit behind his eyes. Good girl, he murmured again. Vincent's voice hardened for the first time. Emily, last chance. But I moved beside Adrian instead of toward the helicopter. I choose the man who stood in front of danger, not the one who arranged it. The wind roared. Vincent's face became unreadable. Then, astonishingly, he nodded once. Daniel raised you well. He stepped into the helicopter cabin. Before the door shut, he looked at Adrian. Locker 19. Dawn. Come alone if you want the rest. The helicopter lifted into rain and vanished over the river. Silence rushed back. I turned to Adrian trembling. Was that over? He looked toward the storm. No, it just became personal. Then Madison gasped behind us, staring at the photograph still in my hand. I followed her eyes to a figure half hidden in the background I had missed. A teenage boy standing beside my parents. Sharp jaw, winter gray eyes. I looked up slowly at Adrian. The boy in the photo was him. My father had not merely known Adrian Blackwood. He had raised him beside me long before I was born. The photograph trembled in my hand as dawn began bleeding pale blue over the river. Rain had softened to mist, but inside me a storm only widened. A teenage Adrian stared back from that faded image beside my parents, younger, leaner, but unmistakable. The same winter gray eyes, the same stillness that made silence feel heavier than words. I looked at him as though seeing him for the first time. You knew my father before all this. Adrian did not answer immediately. He took the photograph from my hand with care, almost reverence. Your father took me in when I was 15, he said quietly. I had nowhere worth going. Daniel taught me how to survive without becoming what was hunting me. The city below us seemed to disappear. There was only that confession hanging in cold air. Then why hide it? His jaw moved once. Because I failed him. Those words carried more weight than shouting ever could. Madison stood a few feet away, silent now, as if even she understood this belonged to something older than betrayal. Adrian turned toward the rooftop door. We need to leave before sunrise. Vincent will expect me at Penn Station. I should have followed. Instead, I caught his wrist. The same way he had caught mine hours ago in the study. He looked down at my hand, surprised. Did my father trust you? Adrian met my eyes. With his life. The answer settled somewhere deeper than fear. We took the service stairs down through sleeping steel and marble while the building hummed around secrets. In the car, the city looked different. Less like home. More like a coded map I had never known how to read. No one spoke until Adrian's driver stopped 2 blocks from Pennsylvania Station just as first light brushed the skyline gold. Adrian turned in the seat. Emily, what happens next may make you hate me. But if I ask you to run, you run. I almost smiled despite everything. You keep assuming I do what you tell me. Something softened in him then, fleeting as sunrise. That may be the only reason you are alive. We entered the station through a side corridor before the morning rush, old tile walls echoing footsteps. Locker 19 stood in a forgotten row near abandoned baggage claim. My hands shook as I turned the key Vincent had sent through Madison. Inside sat a rusted metal box. No diamonds. No fortune. Just a leather ledger and 1 cassette tape. Adrian lifted the tape first. My father's handwriting on the label. For Emily and Adrian. My breath caught. There was a tape player in the station manager's office. Ancient but working. Adrian inserted the tape. Static hissed. Then my father's voice filled the room. If you are hearing this, I did not make it back in time. Emily, I am sorry I made your life a puzzle. Adrian. If she found you, then fate was kinder than I deserved. I covered my mouth to keep from breaking. The recording continued. The ledger exposes men who built empires through shadows. One name matters most. Not Vincent. Mine. Adrian went still beside me. I turned in shock. My father's voice, rough with regret, continued. Adrian was never my enemy. I used his name to hide my own sins. If she learns the truth, let her choose whether to forgive me. My knees weakened. My father had been protecting Adrian, not warning me from him. Then came the final words. Emily, there is one thing I kept from both of you. You were promised to nothing but freedom. Do not let blood debts decide your heart. The tape clicked off. Silence. Adrian stared at the machine as if hearing a ghost absolve him. Then station lights flickered. A public announcement crackled overhead. Trains delayed due to police activity. Adrian looked toward the corridor, instantly alert. Too late. We have company. Footsteps approached. But instead of fear, something strange settled over me. Clarity. I stepped in front of Adrian before I thought about it. His eyes widened. Emily. I shook my head. You stood in front of danger for me all night. My turn. He gave the smallest, disbelieving laugh. In another life, you would have ruled me. Heat rose to my face at the absurd tenderness of it in such a moment. Then Madison rushed in breathless from the hall. You need to see this. She held up her phone. News alerts flooded the screen. Federal raids overnight. Secret accounts exposed. Vincent surrendered at dawn. The ledger had already been delivered anonymously before we arrived. Adrian frowned. That was impossible. Unless we looked at each other at once. My father. Alive somewhere, still moving pieces. I laughed through tears. The whole night had begun because I made a silent signal across a crowded room. And now governments were falling because my father had trusted a girl with a locket. Adrian stepped closer, close enough I could hear his breath. Your signal changed everything, Emily. No, I whispered. Changed us. Outside, sunlight spilled over the station windows in gold. For the first time since dinner, morning felt possible. Adrian offered his hand, not as command but choice. I took it, and in that moment I understood something my father had tried to leave me inside riddles and danger. Sometimes destiny does not arrive with thunder. Sometimes it begins when a frightened girl makes a silent signal, and the right man understands.